Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Truth Behind the Truth. We are excited to be here this evening with you guys. My goodness, we got I won't say a whole lot to talk about, but we got some interesting points to talk about tonight. One of the focus points that we're going to be sharing tonight with you guys is May is Mental Health Month, okay? So we're going to tell some little stories, personally and otherwise, and hopefully that our stories will be able to encourage you if you're going through something. Because at the end of the day, we all have mental issues. Especially if you voted for Donald Trump, you got a mental issue.
It takes more to vote for Donald Trump to have one of those. He is the symptom, but he ain't the situation at best.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, but
how you doing, Charles? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. Trying to get past this sinus issues. You know how it does when the weather changes.
Him too.
I hate it. I hate this time of the year. I really do.
Fortunately, we don't have pollen like we did when we were in Georgia. I mean, we got it, but it's nowhere near.
We just have dust out here. Dust flies more than anything else.
It does.
It just flies. It doesn't stop from nobody. But yeah, it is what it is. I just hate it. I just hate, to be honest, with sinus allergies. They get on my nerves.
Yeah, not a comfortable time. Definitely not a comfortable time. But anyway, let's do our housekeeping real quick, and then we will get on in and dig into this show this evening. All right, want to remind you to support us, please, on our Cash App at TTBTT Show. All right, and then on our Venmo account at The Truth Behind the Truth. All right, we would love to hear from you. Also, you can email us at ttbttshow@gmail.com. And we may open the line today for some text messages if you desire to do that. Just dial the 213-358-55553. That's it, right? 55553. Yeah, that's it. Not open for phone calls at the point because it's a little bit difficult to juggle between that. But please send us a text message on that line, and we will try to get your comment heard and spoken about. Right? And do feel free to comment, please. Comment, like, and share, like, and like over all of your platforms. Then this has to be on our platforms, okay? Sharing means that you are endorsing what we're doing on your own platforms, okay? Be it Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and just drop a link in there and share that each and every week, twice a week at the same time, that we are available for you to encourage your heart, your spirit, your mind, and everything else that's out there that you may feel like this may be lacking in the course of your life or whatever. But we don't like for you to lack, okay? Mugs are still available. Send 5 likes and 5 shares, and we'll take care of the rest for you about posting that information or getting you the right information on time. You do that, send those likes and shares to our TTBTT Show Gmail. And we'll take care of that for you at that end. And if you want to support by buying a mug, it's $9.99 to get a mug with us. All right. Great news for that, and we're gonna get moving. All right. So as I said, starting out. Oh, and then one big thing which we'll do in a little bit is it's guess whose birthday?
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yes, it's tomorrow. I'm making sure my hair's all tight and stuff. Get it all done.
Happy birthday.
We'll turn the fan on so it can blow it and blow in the wind like Beyonce.
Get me a fan so it can blow. But we'll get into that a little bit. But anyway, so again, as I started out, we're going to be, I want to consider it more like celebrating the opportunity that we have opportunities to overcome mental wellness, or mental illness. Because I say mental wellness because, you have to look at yourself as an overcomer, and I think if you move into that frame of mind as being an overcomer, when the challenges of the mental things want to discredit you as you discredit yourself, in the process of that, maybe that will help. Any little extra energy and power always helps us, to move from one place to the next, So you want to go ahead and take that first?
You know what, Charles, go ahead.
Well, I suffer from depression and PTS. I served in the military, been through some things. These times we live in, pretty much I believe everybody's suffering from something because the world is so buck wild and so full of everything you can name. We live through a lot of trauma, self-inflicted and non-self-inflicted. So, a lot of what goes on here, and I'm a big advocate for therapy, for speaking with someone to help you through those moments. A professional that can actually hear you out and help you understand. A lot of people think that therapy is um, done for the people tell you what to do, which is not what it is.
Right.
It's to help you walk through the stages and the moments that are affecting you, so that you have some clarity and some understanding of why they affect you the way they do. Too many of us are worried about somebody judging us, or to holding our secrets, and the trust is a big issue these days, and I get it, because we can't trust the government, we can't trust a lot of people.
Right.
So it's understandable that to be that vulnerable is a big step for a lot of people.
Right. And you touched on one point about that, the vulnerability that we all should have, but I think that when we trust issues are a huge part of that inner part of dealing with mental wellness, because it's either we don't trust the environment, we don't trust the people that are in that environment with us, and we begin to shut down, and we try to figure out ways within our own heads to deal with what we're dealing with, but the solutions have not become external, and when they become external, then it becomes a more of a way to deal. But we want to try to deal with it internally, and then the answers are not coming in the direction that we think that they should, because in that internal moment we are disqualifying ourselves. We're thinking that we're not worthy of our own thought, and our own benefit, and our own what we bring to this planet, and to humanity, and to to the communities that we're involved in, and it just magnifies that even more. And like you said, Charles, nobody understands somebody typically with PTSD. It's an unoccurring event, because and I don't want to call it an event like an event, but it does become an event when it hits you. It's an eventful moment in your life. All events are not great events, at the end of the day, So, but it does become an event for you when it hits you. And then a lot of times in life, people seem to think that it's individuals that have been in war, and they typically live, they hear a gunshot or a dog bark, or some loud noise, and it triggers something, within them, and it causes all kind of reaction within them. And if they're not good at managing that, they can retaliate in ways that they don't even realize that they're retaliating in, at the end of the day. But I know your brother is a sufferer of PTSD, right?
Yes, Daryl, my oldest brother Daryl is. Daryl do have PTSD. He was in the war over in Iraq.
Okay.
In Iraq. But yeah, he comes home with that. Well, he came home with that, and I think he still has to take medication for it. But yeah, that's something, that's a hard thing to get a handle over, because that's right there. I mean, I think it varies. I don't know, Charles, and you might have to educate me or enlighten me, but I think it varies in levels. I don't know. Is there a level to PTSD within the military, or is it just all on the same playing field?
It varies in degrees, not so much as levels. It's almost as just like being autistic. You're on a scale from medium to high, whereas you can be affected. Like I deal with empathetic moments. I can't really be around a lot of super sad stuff because it digs at me. It hits me in my heart.
Okay.
That's sort of what Daryl deals with too.
Yeah, and then I don't do medication because I take enough for my blood pressure and my heart issue. So I just can't get through this. So what I do is I meditate. I try to get quiet time, work through my issues. But a lot of times I think that people don't realize that the mind is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
The mind has such an effect on your health,
right?
Your well-being, your they even believe that we don't use enough of our mind, that there's a portion there that actually heal us.
This is true. I agree.
So
and I like to explore. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'd like to explore that a little bit. After you get to your point. But go ahead, Charles.
Oh no, I was just saying that So that's why I tell people don't. I remember people used to say, "Oh, ain't nothing wrong with that boy. He just need a good ass whooping." No, there are things that people deal with mentally that you can't just beat out of someone or shake them or have them talk about it and it's gone. The mind has that power, and as they say, we use only 10%. Can you imagine if we use 50 to 100% of our mind?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man, it's such a powerful thing.
Well, touching on that, that is a very, very, very good and powerful point about the mind. And it goes back. I mean, that area of our conversation can take on so many different levels,
Yes.
down to mind control and how interjected thoughts have been put in us or said to us that we believe those things, and I think we were talking about some years ago that we don't do anything unless we tell ourselves it's okay. One of the key elements about our mind. We don't do anything or make any move until we tell ourselves that it's okay. Same way with a person that's doing corrupt things and things like that. They have to tell themselves it's okay for them to do it, or they wouldn't do it. So that alone, right there, in that simplistic point, is an educational piece of knowing how the mind works, because it affirms everything that you want or need to do. But because we don't realize that, and we don't realize the power and the wealth that we have in our minds, we get sidetracked, we get swayed, and then life throws things out there that are swayed. Relationships throws things out there. Parents throw things that are out there, okay, that sway us from the solid being that we've come to this planet to be. And honestly, and you can speak to this too as well. Parents, are typically the key enforcer of what happens going on up here. Mm-hmm. And they don't realize that how deeply that their words affect what's going on, like you said earlier, how their words affect what's going on up here. And this is why affirmations are so very important. If we don't come from a place where there's a lot of affirmations about your life and it's always downtrodden, I can't afford, or whatever those scenarios are, mm-hmm. you believe that. And that becomes a part of your being, and in the movement that your mind can tell you that you can step into becomes clouded, and you never ever see that unless you change that. The prosperity of just even in your own mind of just being that the healthy, prosperous person that you are every morning that you get up. You know mm-hmm. what I mean? But go ahead, I'm gonna take off with it.
Yeah, but mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't have PTSD though. Right. I don't have it, but I do have a symptom of depression, anxiety, and it's just, to be honest with you, and I think that comes from a little bit of resentment and a little bit of I want to say a little bit of resentment and anger. Just the fact is just walking in this journey called life. It's just, you want to be at least the most responsible person you can be. You're always having to live off of somebody else's expectations, whether it's family, whether it's a job, whether it's somebody who loves you. It's always the expectations of meeting up to what they will want you to be. Yeah. And sometimes you cannot do it. Sometimes the energy is there to do it, but you're tired.
Well, should you do it?
You're burnt out.
Uh-huh. No, should you do it? But keep going.
But you're burnt out, and it does make you a little depressed, because you feel like, I don't have the energy to do what everybody would want me to do, and I'm tired. I'm mm-hmm. exhausted. Mm-hmm. You sometimes can't even do for oneself because you're so tired, right. And that really brings you into a situation of like, God, I'm not really doing what I'm supposed to do, and I know it, but I'm always having to deal with what somebody else would want me to have to deal to do, or to live up to that expectation. Uh-huh. Also, on top of that, it's just I think it's just a resentment comes from the fact that I wish, and I think, to be honest with you, and this is just me being really honest and transparent. Mm-hmm. I wish I would have had a little bit more of a male mentor for me as a man to navigate life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know how it looks like for a woman to navigate things. And I respect women at times more than I respect men. And I think that's where the resentment comes for men, because I didn't have that. Mm-hmm. It's not foreign for me to see women being successful. Mm-hmm. But to see a man that is successful, that is very foreign to me. And every now and then, if I do come across one that is very successful, there's a situation that I cannot relate to. I can't relate to because I just didn't see it. And it's and I remember going, and I probably had brought this up many on occasions. I went to school.
Yeah.
There were male teachers I did see, but then there was the relationship just wasn't there. I couldn't relate to it. It just wasn't, the energy just wasn't there. And I think people get a feed off of energy. Even to this day, I always tell people, I like people with positive energy. I connect with people who have the same energy that I have, and I try to get to that before I can get to anything that's totally off course.
Right.
I can tell even on my job when it boils down to when it comes down to male counterparts, I don't navigate towards male counterparts as easy as I can women counterparts. And that could be a manager, it could be a co-worker. I navigate easily more because I had to live around that for such a long time.
It became part of who you
It
are.
became a part of who I am.
Right.
So to relate to a male counterpart who I'm trying to at least, try to aspire to be, it's hard because the energy just wasn't there. So it's just one of those things I keep saying, God, if I would have had at least a male mentor early on in life, as a growing up as a child, it would have been much more easier for me to contain and to understand. But then I just, I think that's where I get very angry at certain things that had happened. But what I've been trying to do for the longest part is try to get out of this shell and do things that is beneficial for me. I've been like, you go to the gym, you work out as a form of therapy. And yes, it works out. You can get all that stuff that is bottled up in your mind out of you.
Right.
But I tell people, it's social media. That's a beast in itself. Yeah. Social media will have you feeling some type of way. They will make you feel like, at this age, I'm 38, you should be far ahead than where you need to be. You got always people telling you, for example, if you laying up with anybody who cannot pull $500 out of their bank account, you need to get up. That's kind of like, damn, like some of us just don't sometimes have it like that. Right. But it does make you sit back and wonder, like, financial insecurity, insecurity in itself, and looks, and just superficial stuff get to you. And it's like you're trying to combat that spiritually and physically, and that does weigh on one's mind. I'm gonna end it right there.
I love it because he gives us he unpacks a lot to give us different areas of of conversational points about that. But I have to agree and understand that where the male influence, proper male influence, I'm going to put it that way, proper male influence in one's life is very important, and this is why I think the push that men, if you are going to create life, then create life that you're going to be a part of that life for the rest of your life, and not create something that you're not willing to be involved in. Number one, I mean, there are too many ways I might have to be graphic to get yourself off rather than trying to create something with a woman and you're not going to maintain that child you bring into the world and not wanting to be a part of this child. Now, I know some men out there will simply say, well, you don't know the type of woman. Well, you knew her when you slept with her. You know what I mean? So, you can't blame her for the lack of transparency that you have between you and your child, because as he is stating at this particular point in time, that became a barrier and something he has to have had to struggle, that I know him very well, that he has to, but he is doing I won't say a 360 because you never want to do 360. You want to do a 180. All right. You want to do 180s, not 360, because 360, you turn around and be right back to the same thing you turned away from, So you want to work on 180s so you can learn from each way you turn, from that point. But I've seen his struggles and watches his struggles and know how he feels about certain situations in life and how he fights not to have that disposition. But I think the things I've said to him in transparency is that when the individual that has caused this for him would find a way to come back, and maybe they will, maybe they won't, to apologize for not being there for him in that. They may or may not do it, but self-healing has got to be a part of that if that person never does that. And that's where I think another internal fight comes in, is how do I heal myself when I don't have what I feel I don't have the knowledge to be able to do that, So that's one area. The part of self-gratification, in our accomplishments, or looking for someone to validate those accomplishments, and when they don't happen, it makes it hard as hell to accept something about ourselves at that point. You know what I mean? And it can cause us to shut down to the point that we will not get anything that's out there for us to accomplish in that aspect. Yeah. But I'm gonna shut down, Charles. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, generational curses are more mental and emotional than they are anything else, because we are how do I put this? We're molded in certain facets of our lives that shape how we respond and how we deal with life.
Right.
And the way a lot of folks, and I tell this people all the time, if we think back to the early 1400s, 1500s, where they were slaughtering each other, beheading, and in the middle of town square, kids got to see that like it's a movie. They saw it in real life, and I really believe it affected society as a whole through those barbaric times. Just the slaughter of the Native Americans and all that stuff. It was such barbaric is the greatest word. Right. Such a barbaric time that people carry. That's why when I hear people say slavery, get over it. How do you get over something that's embedded in you and that's passed on? That trauma rides with you through life. And then you don't have to necessarily be in it or gone through it to feel it. Because if you tell me my relatives or my ancestors went through something horrible, it affects me. I can't go with that was them. No, it hurts because that's still my family. That's still my people, my blood, my relatives that have gone through something that was so tragic and so horrific that how do you just go, well, it's gone. That was the past. It's over. It's like a woman who's been sexually assaulted. You can't tell her just to get past it. It was nothing but sex. Get over it. No, that's when you're being forced into a situation that is beyond your control. The effects of it emotionally, mentally, spiritually linger. They don't just go away because you say it's over with.
Right.
That's not how that works. So
Well, would you not know? You both can kind of share in this for the moment. In the area which you had mentioned, and I'm an advocate about understanding your past in terms of what the ancestors have experienced and what have you. But I will submit this, is I think that. And when it becomes a celebration and not, and understand what I'm saying, not a celebration like celebrating birthdays and things like this, okay? But it's like there is a point where you have to kind of steady yourself and realize that has been a part of some element of your past, but you can't live in that past. And I think there is a lot of living in that past, and why I think as African American people, we don't move, and we seem to get stuck right there, and our behaviors dictate that, because it becomes the part of our church, it becomes a part of our conversation, it becomes a part of our families, it becomes all this other, and we keep referring back to. Now, as a groundwork of a stability and an understanding, yes, but we've got to build on that and move forward. You see what I'm saying? And I think that in today's society, and I think this is one of the reasons why we are not moving forward in the realm that I believe that we should, is because we are stuck there. Not maybe you and I here, and maybe possibly some of the audience that are watching notice, but you hear the general conversation, or you look at the posts on social media and things that they are always referring back to that, and it's like, accept the validation of who you are, who you're making yourself become, and capitalize on that and move forward. Here's what I'm trying to say.
We have always tried to move past that, but then on top of it, there have always been situations where there were times where we were always told, always been beaten back into trying to move forward, but then push back. For example, if that doesn't make sense, okay. I just feel like at the end of the day, Black folks been trying to work hard. We were striving. People talk about black fatigue. We are fatigued. I don't know about anybody else being fatigued, but black folks are fatigued. But now it's been gaslighted towards us through sheer other folks who are not black telling us how they're tired of us and everything. But to be honest with you, blacks have been fatigued since slavery.
Okay.
Since our freedom. Okay. We were building not platforms, we were building communities. We were trying to get past what was done to us those 400 years of just working for free. Yes. Then when we start working for ourselves, building up our own communities, churches, universities, it wasn't good enough for the outside world, and they didn't like success. They didn't want us to be successful.
Seneca Valley.
There were repercussions for that. You had communities that were burnt down, things that were taken from us.
Rosewood.
You're not supposed to own that amount of land, because how could a black man own property? How could he be on the voting register? And people to this day, they will gaslight us into bringing up slavery, because people do want us not to bring up the situation where there was never no type of financial reward. We just never were rewarded for the free labor that's why that plantation down in New Orleans, Louisiana. You know why black folks are so happy that had happened? Because you know how many black hands built that big old plantation?
Where it's a constant reminder.
It's a reminder. And them having weddings and bed and breakfasts at these plantations is a slap in the face, is a spit in those people who died toiling in the soil, having to deal with the whippings. That's like me saying, let's go have a bed and breakfast at Auschwitz. Let's go to Buchenwald. Let's go to these places where we know that these Jews were gassed, and let's just have a big ass wedding. And that's not right. I think that's why we tend to navigate back to those times, because people are still gaslighting us.
Yeah, the controversy comes from the hypocritical standpoint. They're paying Africanos all this attention because they feel they're being discriminated against, when they own 80% of the land in South Africa, and they're not even from South Africa. They've colonized it. Now they're saying they're suffering and being genocide because they're being told you need to give back what you took. And they're not going there forcefully taking it. There are people in Sudan and the Congo who are actually going through genocide that they're not allowing into this country. So you can't just go there and grab the white Afrikaners and say, oh, you're being treated so bad. Now you need to be in America. We're going to expedite your paperwork. But it's so hypocritical, because there are people who are actually suffering who need that help and aren't getting it. And this is why when they keep saying we always talk about race, well, you make it so blatant. You do it right in front of our face, and then they expect us to look, pretend like we don't see it, but it happens. And everything from Seneca Valley, which is Central Park in New York, Disney was stolen from the African American. Had a whole town, there's several towns down there. They cleared. Walt Disney went down there and stole that land from them people under different corporations, pretending he was kind of, I guess, the early gentrification. But he basically stole all that land to build Disneyland down there. And all from a black communities, and nobody talks about that. There's Rosewood, there's Tulsa, there's so many places. There's Lake Lanier. There's places that all this happened, and then you want people to say, just forget about it. How do you forget about things like that when it's so blatant?
Well, and I'm hearing both of what you guys are saying about that. Now, my question would be is that we realize the dissenting fact of all of these things that have occurred. But my question is that, and you say this all the time, where do we as African American people, black people, find that there was a lot of strength that went through those times, even though it was very difficult and all this. But where do we take a solid stand to obtain and get back? Why are we not participatory in the legislational pieces to learn the laws that we can get involved? And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? I know it's not going to be, but the information and being educated and on the back office, one would say. You know what I mean?
I'm going to do it like Bill Cosby. You know what? I'm not trying to be funny, but when you ask those questions, you might as well say, "Why is there air?" Because it's the same question. You're asking something that's so profound that you can't grasp it. And this is another thing that I spoke with someone about this the other day, because I still go to therapy to deal with my issues. And they were like, "Well, no, I don't understand why Black people made this music, this hip hop, and it misogynizing it." Everybody's not on the same mental level. I don't care how much we preach it, how much we explain it. Everybody, I can't understand how a person can watch a movie of murder and they go out and murder people. I feel like you're so weak in the mental that how did that just overtake you? I can't watch a hip hop video and say, "You know what? I want to go smack me some hoes. I want to go do." No, I look at it, it's entertainment. I go about my way. I think that we have to still, just like PTS, there are levels, there are degrees. Everybody's not on that same mental foundation. Right. Some folks are weaker than others when it comes to the influence.
And so the thing is that we do it to each other, Charles. That's the one thing I don't quite understand about us as the culture. We listen to this stuff, and it's not good stuff. Right. But the saddest thing about it is that we listen to it and we do it to each other. I don't support stuff like that. I don't support the fact that, this is the reason I feel like at the end of the day, and I don't have any type of I don't feel sorry for Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or Love, or whatever you want to call it. I don't, because the man had a responsibility. He had the platform. He had the access. I have more respect for Booker T. Washington in that way than I do Puff Daddy, because you know what Booker T. Washington at least did for Black folk? Booker T. Washington at that time was considered a coon. Mm-hmm. He was considered the biggest coon leader that we had, because what he did, he had to kowtow to white folk for that money for Tuskegee. He was building a college from nothing. He had no resource. He had no type of equipment to build a school. It took Black hands to build Tuskegee Institute, and now it's being desecrated and it's not being kept up. But what I'm trying to get to is the fact that he utilized white money to build that institute. Puff Daddy had resources. He had money. He became rich. And what he did was the polar opposite. He took his money and he exploited. He did certain things to kind of uplift the community, but then other stuff overcame it, overshadowed it. And he did. And to be honest with you, not only him, but a whole bunch of other people did the same thing. Bill Cosby too. Mm-hmm. The saddest thing about these folks is that we look up to these people, but they do it to us instead of the other way around.
But the sad part about that is, and this is just me, the views I'm about to express are not those of the truth behind the truth or the people that the sponsorship that say this, but I think that our people have been so bamboozled and finagled using religion that we've always looked for a savior. Say that. We always need a savior. That's what is one of our biggest weaknesses. We don't depend on strengthen ourselves. We don't strengthen our community. We
don't believe we can be our own savior. But go ahead.
Yeah, we always want someone to come in. Who's our leader? White people don't have leaders. They do, but they don't influence the whole culture or the race. Asian people have leaders, but they don't influence everybody, speak for everybody in their culture. So why? But Black people always want to know who's going to be in charge. Right. And then when the sad part about it is, those who want to be in charge usually don't have the best intentions.
Mm-hmm. I hate to say this, Charles, but white folks do have leaders. They just don't prop theirs up.
That's what I'm saying. They're not in charge of the whole race. They don't talk for the whole race. They just talk for those sections of people they're with. Right. Look at Trump. Right. Trump doesn't speak for all white people.
Right. Sure does.
But he does lead a lot of white people.
Right. Uh-huh.
And that's the same here. We have people, and everybody knows the history dictates. Martin Luther King had an approval rating of 34% with Black people, not white people, with Black people. Because they thought he was making problems and getting ruining what we already have. because people are so satisfied with the little bit they had, they just was happy.
Still is.
Pretty much still is.
And unfortunately, I think that what we see is that these become learned behaviors. They become belief systems, and we continue to prepare. And this is why me personally, I'm in agreement with you guys. But the part of this is that I don't like is the fact that we take the experiences of slavery and make them belief systems. And we wrap around ideas around lack of success versus to wrapping our head around true success.
Broken families too. We utilize slavery to break up families.
Right. And we use that as an excuse rather than changing the narrative. You know what I'm saying? And that's the part that I have a huge problem with that. And I ask the question all the time, why is it that we run to this sector of life for support? Now, there are strengths that you can pull from it. I get it. Because you have to think about from somebody, and this is the horrific parts of somebody, and I've had this conversation with somebody at the gym years ago. And I choose to look at, since we're just using the horrific event of somebody, being hanged, or something along like that. Yes, it was horrifying and watch, but I'd like to believe that whatever that ancestor was, that person was mentally praying, even though that anguish was going on, that their ancestor would not have to experience this. You see what I'm saying? So they were the slain lamb in this given situation, for that. And looking at it from that versus to having this innate misguided anger at the community that was doing it, because misguided anger is not going to help you at all. Now, I know that the one part of that, the retaliation, the beating up, you did this, I get that, I understand. But is that moving you forward in a realm of success for your people? Is that getting you the wealth that you need? Is that getting you the land that you need? Is that giving you and the list goes on. That's my point.
But my thing is, we can get there if we would stop beating down on each other.
Well, but
my thing is, that is a slave mentality either way, because at the end of the you listen, I wish I could pull up this clip. I wish I could, but we cannot pull it up.
Which one?
But the clip of Roland Martin talking to this young guy from, I think he was from Florida,
Mm-hmm.
But he was building a school for his community.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so sad to see somebody with so much wisdom and knowledge beating down on this young man who was trying to explain to Roland why he wasn't looking for politicians to help his community, which I understood where he was coming from, because Roland took it as, the man kept saying, well, the vote don't really count. I understood what he was getting at. I don't agree with our vote not counting, because we worked so hard to get the vote for protections over our bodies. We needed the federal protection over our body, and the vote has always helped Black folks to gain that protection, because the lynchings were there because we weren't protected.
Right.
But going back to that moment, Roland kept beating down on the young man while the man was saying, I'm building this school. I'm trying to get the young people in my community to learn how to read and write. I'm trying to educate them in the best way I know how, because I don't believe our public education system is working. And Roland kept saying, well, how are you supposed to get the contracts, young man? How are you supposed to get the supporting, the backing, and everything else? But the fact is that he kept not uplifting him. He kept beating him down in the moment. And the young man, it gave me this pause. I kept thinking, why are we doing this to each other? Why couldn't Roland said, you know what? I hear what you're saying, young man. Let me help you out. Let me see if I can get some contacts for you and see if we can gain some ground in what you're trying to build and what you're trying to do. You're trying to get young people to get educated. You got school buses. You got a school bus. You have a school. But the one thing I kept telling myself is, Roland, you are the reason why Black folks are having a hard time trying to navigate this system, because with you telling certain Black folks, you ain't got it, you're idiotic, you ain't got the mindset that I have, you don't have the education that I have, you don't have the understanding of things that I have. you cannot go no further than where I'm seeing it.
Well, that
so
goes with the conversation we've already started out.
That's the crazy. That is the situation within our community that we cannot get over is the fact that we like to beat each other down with ideas. Well, you have an idea, I'm gonna try my best to defeat that idea. And that's the problem.
Well, no, I mean, and it's how we started out the conversation tonight. This is what leads to the mental anguish, which leads into the mental health problems and all the type of things that are out there because of that. So the question should be, before we got to move on, and we won't want to stay on this all evening.
We can stay on it all evening because it's a great conversation.
You know, the thing is that what we have to start focusing in on is a mindset and a cultural change. And
a cultural reset. They basically it's the same thing.
You know, and those that are willing to stick to that cultural reset or cultural change. Because if we stay in this cycle of this mindset, and we did a show on PTSD like 3 years ago, you know, and you know what it did and how it I forget what we call this, but we did a show on PTSD about the same subject.
But this is the reason why you have young men listening to people as Cam Newton, Joe Budden. You got young men listening to oh my goodness, to men who don't have a solid foundation but have money to support their not solid foundation.
Right. Well, yeah.
And the saddest thing about it is that you have men who could bring some light into the community, but they don't have a bigger and louder voice.
Right. Well, they have a lot of voice, but I think what I mean is they have a lot of voice, meaning that the monetary end of it is silencing a lot of what they necessarily could take the responsibility.
We need more Obamas, but keep it going. I'm sorry. Go, Charles.
Oh no, my thing is it's multifaceted. It's not just one thing, and it's not as simple as, you know, everybody needs to have a different mindset, because a lot of what's going on is still systemic. Like I just said, you're looking at what Trump's doing. There's more facets to it than just us getting together saying we're going to rise up, we're going to overcome. There's so many more things involved. Right. I really think that with things like and this I'm guilty of it too at times. Like Roland, you get so impassioned about how things are rolling, you're just steamroller somebody because you're basically work vomiting somebody else because you got so much in you. But at the same point, we still got to remember there's so many other people that, hell, Lil Baby went out and lost $8 million gambling. You know what I mean? People that could have fed in the neighborhood.
Right.
You know, the hip hop is 50 years old. How many hospitals, schools, daycares, shelters has hip hop made?
None.
My point.
None. Maybe one or two for those individuals that do it silently. That's what
and I hate to say it this way, but even like Davin said, even Puffy's done some great things politically, financially. We can't always, how to put this?
Well, except to be,
we're all flawed. Yeah, we're all flawed, but there are some good aspects out there if we would just carry on with them. A lot of us won't, because we'll cop out and say, I don't have the money, or I don't want to do it. Just like the voting. I'm not. What am I getting for my vote? If I'm not going to get nothing for it, I'm not voting. Well, hey,
you know, and then that has unfortunately just been the mind. But what am I going to get from you for the time that I spend in clicking a switch? You know, at the end of the day,
that's where we have education comes into play. You got to have somebody in the home who knows how to at least break it down in a way that will help the situation. So you know what? I'm so grateful to have had a grandmother who let us know early in life. Because see, this is where, as Black children, you need to understand that this system is so rigged. You can't go out and do everything your white friends can do. I hate to say this when people say, well, why y'all always bringing up race? I'm sorry. The system brings up race. Your job application brings up race. These programs that you have to sign up bring on the race, because that's a way of them copping out or reneging on giving us what we need, because there have been situations where I can't give to no Black person because of this and because of that. I'd rather give to this white person because I feel like they would be a better candidate than this Black person or this Hispanic person or whoever that's coming in to support us. The saddest thing about this situation is, yes, the system is rigged, regardless of what you're trying to do. I just wish as Black people that when we have ideas of trying to bring something to our community, is that we don't stump down, beat down, use the Bible to bring us down. You have Ryan Coogler's movie, Sinners, right, is making blockbuster money. Right. But then you have those same Black folk who don't see it for Ryan Coogler because they don't see it for themselves. Right. How can this Black man be so successful that he can go over there and make all this money, make all these ways? That's why it's so important to stay disciplined as a Black person with money. Because I keep saying this all the time. We are our own worst enemy. Forget about the white man. It takes something what Puff Daddy did, the exploitation of his own, for us to pick at that more than we pick at his success. I say at the end of the day, we have to stop beating down on each other. Another example, Whitney Houston. And I'm like, Whitney Houston would have not have had to question her Blackness if it wasn't for Black people. The reason why she fell so down into the dumps because one event, 1989 at the Soul Train Awards, she got booed. Right. She got booed by her Black counterparts because they thought she was too white. Not for the simple fact that she was a great representation for Black women and for our community. You see why we have Sexy Reds. We had a great representation. We had Whitney Houston. But we kowtowed and booed that because she was too white sounding. She wasn't too Black for us. Now we having to deal with somebody like a Meg Thee Stallion twerking and busting it wide open. Like you say, Charles, is what you put your money behind. But the saddest thing about it is we like to beat down on each other. And that is the absolute problem with the Black community, is that we will not ever rise above our own circumstance until we stop beating down on each other, man and female. We need to uplift, but then it's going to take those individuals to come up out of their own ignorance too.
You got to want to come up out of it.
You got to come out of your ignorance.
Well, some people are, they like, it becomes a bed of, I think, I don't want to say it becomes a cesspool of garbage, honestly,
yes.
Because, garbage produces garbage at the end of the day. I'm sorry,
and we support garbage,
and
we do.
We do support there's garbage. Not, and I understand Charles's point. There are people that are going to like different things. I get all that, but at the end of the day, what is it necessarily doing to bring people to a point that what is the conversation that we're having? Because my guys, my opinion about, like you mentioned, the Nasty Reds and the Stallion Williams and all these other type of stuff out there.
But they are there for a reason.
But they're there for a reason, and they've been put there for a reason, and they've been put there. But here's the thing. The generation that we have right now know more about them than this generation knows about everything you mentioned earlier. They don't care about the generation they care about them. So there's a message being lost somewhere. Okay, like you said, Charles, 50 years in the hippie hoppy at this particular point in time. What good has it done to educate us? Not so much.
Not so much.
Okay, what good has it done to build the reconciliation that we need to have among one another? Not so much.
Now, when you have a young generation saying "fuck Emmett Till," excuse my language, but that's a hip hop generation.
Yeah, well,
they don't know who Emmett Till is. Emmett Till, that's the saddest thing, that because of he is the catalyst. He is the lamb of the slaughter. He was the lamb that was slain for us to have what we have right now. So
you could have had it nasty that hip hop. He
was the 14-year-old boy who navigated a whole community, right, because Black people were scared that their children were going to die like that. Right. And we were scared as a whole community within these United States. We were absolutely outraged that a 14-year-old boy could look like that. But that generation don't understand that. They don't understand.
I'd love to hear a rap song done about Emmett Till's life.
I would too.
That would be so nice.
I would too.
That would be so nice.
Go ahead, Charles. I know you got a lot to say.
Dang, Dollar, why you say it like that?
I see it all over your face.
No,
I love to hear a rap song done by Rosa Parks.
No.
We
mocked her. Yeah. We mocked her in the movie Barbershop.
Right.
She didn't do nothing but sit her fat ass down. Yeah. That's all she did, was sit her fat ass down. And we still, after the fact, we mocked that.
She was tired. Okay.
well, no. That's what not Cedric the Entertainer said. What did he say?
He said
All she did was sit her fat ass down.
Right.
But the saddest thing about that situation was people don't understand. Besides her sitting her fat ass down, she lost her job. She lost her job. She almost lost her home, and her marriage. People around her were giving her death threats. See, it's more than just her sitting her fat ass down. But what happened was, economically, the public transportation system of Montgomery, Alabama, lost money. See, that's where we tend to forget that was the power of her sitting her fat ass down. They lost money. We can't even get together and stop going to Walmart or stop going to Target. We cannot get it together to do anything that is for us because all we do is mock shit. We play with shit all the time and think it's funny. It's not funny. It's not funny to mock our history. Go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry.
No, I think that and you make valid points. I just think that in this time and in society is that we haven't fully digested all the information. And even with the internet, where you can just type in something and it comes up, people still don't take the opportunity to investigate or to research. They'll listen to the guy in the barbershop before they come on here and look at the government website and look at the statistics. Then it's just that that's the way we are. But the one point I want to make is I don't want people to give up hope, and I don't want them to feel like it's hopeless. It's not hopeless.
Right.
We still have to put in the effort. We still have to put in the effort. We still have to put forward the movement to make things happen. Prayer without works is what? Just a dream.
That's all it is. That works. And this is why we've been sitting in front of these cameras for 5 years. Trying to be being an example of men of color that stands for something. And not falling and then providing information to our general audience that takes to want to take the time to sit back and watch and not get bored at it because they don't feel like they can relate to it. Everybody can relate to everything that we're talking about because you're a part of everything that we've ever talked about on this show.
Let's stir the pot. There are people within our families that beat us down for this idea.
Yeah. Ooh.
Let's stir the pot just a little bit before we get off. We have families, Black families, that don't support us because we're not speaking on what they would rather for us to speak on. They would rather for us to come and talk about everything that they would want us to talk about. But instead of watching us, they go watch somebody else. I have 2 brothers. Actually, I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. They don't watch me. They never do they call. I mean, my mom is the only person that supports you. Your mom is the only one that supports you, Charles. You have a son. That in itself is a representation of the Black community. When you have an idea, and then on top of that, they wonder why we don't have generational wealth. You come to your family with an idea. Let's do this. Let's get it. My brother, my half brother came to us about owning stock, buying stock, crypto, and all that stuff. I will do that because he brought it to our attention. But do you know how many other people will bring it to your attention and say, "Well, that shit don't work"? Yeah, that's the situation that why we can't get ahead because with platforms like this, like ours, they don't want to listen to it. Then they want to talk about, well, there ain't nobody out there for us. We got all this ignorant stuff going on because you don't search for it. Just like you said, with all of this technology in our hands, we don't want to look at what is right for us. We want to kowtow and throw off responsibility and deflect.
Look for stimmy.
And that's why you have Mona Scott. That's why you have Cam Newton. That's why you have Joe Button. That's why you have Puff Daddies. That's why you have all of these ignorant ass folks that are going to jail. They're going to jail because white folk are going to set their the white boogeyman is going to do due diligence because now they have the power to do it. But the saddest thing about it is, when are we going to have the power to take on our own responsibility? When are we going to start calling these people to the carpet? Mona Scott is on Sherry Shepherd's show, but she brought on the Love and Hip Hop.
Who's that?
Mona Scott. She's the producer.
Oh yeah.
reason why we have all this ratchetness, the reason why Michelle Obama can go home and watch that, and I'm going to throw Michelle Obama under the bus. She went on and said, I watched Love and Hip Hop. Why did you give that a platform?
Well, I actually worked there. That's how I made a living for a while. So
that's
paid my bills.
That's a different situation. But we're talking about the Black First Lady. Why did you do that? You just gave ignorance a platform. You just gave enough black people to say, well, you know, if Michelle Obama can watch it, so can I.
Well, if Michelle Obama was telling us to eat healthy, why we didn't just eat healthy? You believe and follow what you want to believe. It ain't Michelle Obama's fault because she likes it and other people follow it. She told them to eat healthy. What did they say? Don't tell us what to do. We eat what we want to eat. Then now we get the people coming in and tell us they want us to eat healthy now, but you didn't do it then. But now you want to do it under someone else.
I will take that back. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to rebut that because we do now, as a black people, we do have vegan soul foods.
Well, she's gone back.
We have Slutty Burger. We do have all of that. She's
closing down Slutty Vegan. Slutty Vegan's being closed down. She due to financial issues.
There you go. Where's the black support? Why? Because she has been a big at McDonald's. Because her burgers. She
was. The problem is she turned over power to some other entities, and they ran it in the ground. But I'm not mad at her because I'm dealing with the same thing with my business. Business is a tricky thing without a mentor or someone to guide you. And she was doing so well, she thought that she could do like the big dogs do and hand it over to some other people to manage, and they ran it in the dirt. And now she's in debt because they ran it the wrong way, and now it just collapsed.
They took it out of Spelman too because they kept saying that. Well, why? It's too high. The food is too pricey. Yeah. But then she could have, like you said, she could have controlled the narrative and brought the prices down. Right. But still, we'll go buy Birkin bags. We'll go still buy Jordans. We'll still go buy stuff that's $3 over there in China. And China's telling us that y'all are full of shit because why are you buying goods that are $300 and $400 while you can come over here and buy for $5? Right. We're not good about things of that nature, Charles.
Well, it's the thing that I've heard somebody.
We suck as black folk with money. We suck. Let's stir the pot a little bit. We suck. No, that's right. We right. Let's be real about it. Let's be real about it. We are not good with our purse strings, and they know it.
Give a solution.
Truth behind the truth. The solution is being financially educated, which I feel like the black church and black institutions have lost us. We need to be financially educated and financially sound in what we're trying to do. That's revolutionary with us. That's why the Jews are. Did I bring up that boogeyman too? Okay. That's why the Jews are here because they don't go buy every damn thing with name brands. They support each other. That's why Jacob the Jeweler is making 10 times more money than Michael Jordan.
Lock the back door. Lock the back door. Lock the door.
Well,
truth behind the truth.
But in some certain valid points about that, and again, we elaborate, we talk about educational pieces. I just have to ask the question, why does it take y'all so long to just look at something different? Why? We comparatively look at, and now finally, it's been 105 years that we have had the NAACP doing whatever they've been doing.
And they produce a show called Beyond the Gate.
And now they're finally putting their money behind a TV show. Finally, why didn't you do that 80 years ago? Okay, why didn't you build what Tyler Perry has done 80 years? Can you imagine if they would have done that just 80 years ago? It didn't matter what the studios were liking or not liking. You building your own empire. Do you know how much money the NAACP had 80 years ago?
Instead of putting us Instead of building up somebody else's quotas.
True.
Just building up somebody's
quotas. We're talking billions of dollars. Okay.
Affirmative action and DEIs and shit. What the hell that's gonna do to help us?
Create the narrative. Create the narrative of expectation. But
pass that ball over here. I need some of that. What you drink?
but the limitations that we again, like I say, I'm just at the point.
The NAACP lost the ball when they wanted to make us fill in somebody else's quotas. That's the problem. We did have the community in the 40s to build our own MGM, our own Warner Brothers. We had it. Right. We had theaters of our own. Right.
Oh, you still got it now with LeBron, Michael Jordan, all these other Tiger Woods, Shaquille O'Neal. You can still do it, but this is the thing I've learned: everybody doesn't have the finesse or the intellect to do what's necessary.
True, but
armchair quarterbacking. My dad said it best: hindsight is 20/20. True. Even Martin Luther King said, "I feel I've led my people astray and led them into a burning building with segregation."
And I agree with what you're saying, but there are too many people right now that are walking around between here and Atlanta that have the fortitude and the knowledge to create these environments. But you know what? We're not getting behind them and being able. You and I talked about this extensively last night about what you and I have done together almost 16 years. You know what I'm saying? That we have made a commitment that when the money starts flowing, that what we're going to do about the situation, you know, and like that. But how many people have you talked to right there in Atlanta, and the people that I've sat in front of right there in Atlanta in different sets and brought up ideas? And oh yeah, well when you get there, you know, come on in, let's have a conversation. You know, how many times have I worked on Tyler Perry? How many times did my face was known over to Tyler Perry that his chief editor came to me and said, "Man, I wish he would put you on more stuff." Okay, he said, "I like editing everything. You have a great look for this guy. I don't know why he don't put you on more stuff."
Chief editor. Joe Brown said Tyler Perry's a buffoon.
But this is not a launch out to him, but I'm using him as an example, you know, of what there. David E. Talbot, know David E. Talbot quite well.
This one
okay,
let this one go.
One of the greatest producers of the African American community right now is out there. He did the Oscars. I know him well. Spent a lot of time with him. You don't think you call him JB? What you got going on? Let's put something together. Let me see what you got to say. You know what I'm saying? So you and I, and that never still one, but we have been in sectors, Charles. You know what I'm saying? We have been there with people of color, and then have had conversations with people. You know what I'm saying? And they still do not do it.
I still get phone calls from people going, "Let's do something," and I go, "Why do you always call me? Let's do something." But you never say, "Charles, I got money." You all say, "Charles, let's do something," and there's never any money mentioned in there at all.
Well, there you go. But you know what? Let me give you this little backstory. Puff Daddy wouldn't have been Puff Daddy without Puff Daddy having to do so much for Andre Harrell. Andre Harrell had that man washing cars, cleaning his clothes, washing homes, and all this stuff.
That's internship.
He did.
This is what I don't quite understand about this situation. He had him doing this, but then do you see the problem sometimes in having people do that? But then you take on that same platform and do it for other people, and you see where this led to him being in. If I had to do this, and God forbid, I don't want to know what else he did for Andre Harrell, because he could have did more. We don't want to know. But this is what led him to where he's at right now. Mm-hmm. The saddest thing about certain people that we like to look up to within our community, they want us to work for free. They want us to make sure that we are so loyal to the point that we would do irregular, strange situations. Look at our fraternities. Look at some of our sororities. What do you do when you have to pledge?
But remember this, though. He's not the only one. He's not. Hugh Hefner had young women in his home on drugs for years.
Right.
Nobody ever said a word. Nobody ever arrested him. Nobody ever said anything about sex trafficking. Hugh Hefner made a living in broad daylight doing it. Nobody said a word.
So true. All right, we got to go on because we got to wrap.
All right, we can't say anything.
Okay, we got to go. We got to go on. So I do want to talk about this real quick because it's going around the internet. We got like 2-3 minutes. I know you're not gonna like what I'm about to say about it, but you got that clip about Beyonce's daughter, right? All right.
Yeah. They wouldn't let me put it on. What I can do is I can play it
with her mama. Okay, you know, as I'm talking.
This can only end in tears.
Well, okay. Be as it may. All right. There's a lot of people, okay, that are vocal about what's going on with Blue Ivy. Now, whether they have the right to, I think that they're trying to speak up from a best interest standpoint of view. Yes, her mama's Beyonce, but she don't need to be trying to be Beyonce right now at 13 years old. Okay, that's just straight across the board. I looked at another performance. I don't know if the one I sent you, Charles, or whatever, you have that copy of it, but I said no. But in my comment, I simply said, okay, great. You know, let's hone her craft. Let's make her that. Let her make it be something for her age group. She does not need to be prancing across the stage with all these grown folk.
Okay, I'll give you that.
You know, no, I'm sorry. She don't need to be shaking her behind on the stage, what she did in this other clip. Everybody, she ain't. Yes, she is twerking. Okay, she's twerking and jerking. All right, and she doesn't need to be in that particular environment at this age. Okay. Do her in age. I mean, like, hey, she got the money, she got the platform, she got the fame. Let her come out with.
Pull up the video.
You have a video, Charles?
See what we can see.
I
beg to differ, but keep going. Let's see the video.
And the reason I'm saying this, that Charles putting this together, is because it's about protecting the integrity of our youth.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Okay, and if we're not ones that are at this age willing to protect her, what makes her not be a Cassie at the end of this? Because her mama Beyonce. That don't make a difference.
It does.
It does. No, it doesn't, because choices are choices. No matter if you have money or not.
It does.
Choices are choices.
It
okay,
does.
And she could get wrapped up with somebody. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Well, let me say this though. When Beyonce did come out, because I was around during this time, and y'all were too, but I think I was more paying attention to it. She was that age.
Yeah.
She was that age. When Britney Spears came out,
same
Baby
thing.
One More Time, she was that age.
Yep.
To be honest with you, within the American entertainment, for women to come out and be ingenues, they have to be that age. You know how old? You know
Shirley Temple.
Huh?
Shirley Temple. People saying the little girl that age shouldn't be out there.
To be old in the entertainment industry for a woman is 20 or 30 years old.
Right. No, I get
and
that.
I hate to say that is the beast of the situation.
But
now,
the performance and the coming out
is
two different situations.
Well,
what she's being allowed to do is two different situations.
But she lives in a different situation, love. She's not. She's not some random ordinary average girl.
Justify that
she
because
is
she's
Beyonce's
child. It don't give a damn if she was whoever else's child.
Well, Beyonce's child will be protected. That's what you're trying to say.
The example to these other girls. They ain't even about her.
Yeah, they
these
ain't
other young girls.
Other girl. She's Beyonce's
I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about the influence that she has over these other young girls and the behaviors. And these, well, again, this is where we talk about all night long about accountability, responsibility of us, and why we can't rise because we justify the wrong behaviors.
Well, I'm gonna put it to you like this. Little girls were doing it way before she was.
I know.
Other little girls. They're like she's the devil.
I understand. It's just that because she's on the front street right now, she has a platform to be on the front street, but that does not make it acceptable. We talk about, like I said before, these other girls may not ever have the opportunity that she has to be somewhat guarded. Okay, but then there's some other ones that could fall into a Cassie situation as well. Okay, and
this is to be the greatest love of all. I always say, go back and be go listen to that song.
When you don't know that,
the greatest love of all will help you figure some things out.
We started the show on the fact of what people are not being taught.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, and understood and understood about themselves. The PSTD, the mental anguish. Okay, and that mental anguish needs to start being addressed at home. But when you've got a young lady like this that is on this level, that is becoming an example to a lot of 13-year-old women, young girls, okay, and they will try to act this out, and then there are pedophiles and there are prowlers, and there are all these type of people that are still in this business that will be seeking these girls out. And guess what? Well, hold on. But because Beyonce's daughter got away with it, Okay, and you can get away with it. Then I can get away with it, and some pedophile or some prowler come up to her and doing all of that. We have to think beyond just what it is.
I hate to say it this way, but as I tell my lady friend, you can wear a potato sack and the man's still gonna look at your butt. He's still gonna want to hit it. It don't matter what you do, they're gonna do it anyway. It don't matter.
But the thing about the look and the touch and the doing is two different situations.
And people can dance. These are different eras. This is like, I get mad when I hear people say men wearing dresses. Well, Jesus wore a dress. Right. So did a bunch of other folks. Stop trying to pigeonhole people to what your thoughts are and let people do
Matthew knows put his daughter out like that. And she wasn't even Beyonce.
I didn't even agree
Matthew
with that.
knows put his daughter in that.
Four of them girls.
And the saddest thing about that is Beyonce, when they hit it big, she was only 15 and wearing skimpy outfits. But that didn't stop. And that's the thing that you have to understand. There has to be some parental guidance in the home.
What do you think the hell I'm saying?
That's right.
What am I saying?
That won't happen to
what am I saying?
What am I saying? Happen to
she
Blue
is
Ivy
an example. She's an example of what other people like. This is why you got all these old people walking to a Beyonce kind of trying to dress like her. Okay, the influence, all right? And I'm talking about the influence of other young people that are out there that will watch this and say that it's acceptable at 13 years old.
What did we just say at the beginning of this show? Right. People have a mind. They do what they want to do.
I agree.
In their realm. You can't judge them because they do it.
It still doesn't justify the fact of not having proper guidance in what's going on.
But in whose eyes? That's the problem. In whose eyes? That's in your eyes. That's not their parents.
No. And I'm completely pushed back on that one. No, I don't agree with that. Not necessarily because I'm not the only one that agrees with what I'm talking about.
But this, and not to be rude, but your opinion doesn't count. Their parents are the ones that's doing it. Their parents are doing it.
You know what? And the fact of the matter is that the parents are the ones that need to be in check if they're allowing their daughter, whatever else, to be in this type of environment. That's just it, in my opinion. Okay, they are allowing that to happen. They have the control over that. They have the ability. But just like Cassie, I'm using her as an example because she's a hit girl right now and everything that's going on. But then her mama getting on the stand right now and talking about what she didn't want her daughter to do or get involved in.
That's
you see what I'm saying?
That's right.
But there was not the proper guidance that was there to let her girl that when she got hooked up with Puffy at 18 years old. Really?
That's right.
I mean, so all I'm saying is that we cannot be justifying people's actions and not offering some opportunity to think different about the actions that they're taking on. We cannot be pessimistic about the situation and say, oh, that's just them. We can't do that. And
we're not that girl's parents. If that girl's parents don't stop them, if that girl's parents don't cut it off, you are not their parents. Yes, everybody don't need to be a parent. Everybody can't be a parent. Exactly. And even I can tell you as a parent, as a parent, my kids are still going to do things I don't like.
But the thing about this is that we still have to speak to it. We've got, even if they're the horrible parents in the world, I've got my grandchildren got some horrible mamas. Okay, but at the end of the day, I can't change their mamas, but I sure in the hell can speak to them about their behavior.
That's my point. You can change yours, and that's where the responsibility comes in.
A few more years, because there was, and I'm gonna balance this. There was a Rita Franklin now. Now you can't.
That was a horrible situation.
You can't talk about the secular situation without talking about the church situation too. I don't care how powerful your parent is. We're gonna all have to walk this journey called life. We're going to have to walk this journey called life. Now, if you're looking up to Blue Ivy, okay, then fine. You can look at the Blue Ivy, but just know what Blue Ivy has over what you have. And I'm just being honest. Blue Ivy has the connection. You don't have the connection, baby. That means on top of that, you will have to cross some hurdles to be a Blue Ivy. But that's got to be a parent. That's got to be a parent to put it down on the table and say,
if your parents say it's okay for you to twerk your ass at 13 years old and you go and you're going to sleep and the next thing
those your parents.
Some executive is trying to get between your legs. That's okay.
No, that's your parents. Your parents are responsible.
But I understand that. But again, somebody has to be the voice, guys. And then if the parent is doing bad parenting, somebody got to tell them they're doing the damn thing.
Gwyneth Paltrow. Then wasn't out there twerking her tail, but guess who was trying to get up in between her
Harvey
tail?
Weinstein. Yep.
She wasn't out there twerking, and guess who her parents are?
It doesn't matter. It surely doesn't. And this is not to be salt on anybody, but you can't You can't rule other people with what you feel. That's and I hate to say it this way, but that's the glory of freedom and the glory of being able to do as you do. You do it. There are things you do. People go, oh hell no, they shouldn't be able to do that. I tell this to people all the time. We are not flawless. We all do things that somebody else looks at us and go, you shouldn't be able to do that.
Boundaries for yourself. Now, let me tell you something. I had in these 38 years of living, there were opportunities to do everything underneath the sun: drugs, alcohol, sex, orgies, everything I wanted to do. But you know what I decided not to do is those things. You got to have it within yourself to say, you know what? I love Blue Ivy, but there's certain things I just will not do for the sanctity of my mental wellness and of my own totality and authenticity.
Children of alcoholics.
That strength within yourself.
Children of alcoholics don't drink. Why? Because they saw their parents drinking and they didn't like the way that looked. That they made a decision. I'm not going to drink.
I'm not going to drink.
That's the willpower you have.
You got to have
to control your life.
The willpower got to come from within you as a person, as an individual. Because let me tell you something. Within this gay community that we preside in, that I had to grow up in and had to understand and navigate. Everything wasn't for me. That's why I felt like I wasn't in the it game or the it people. I wasn't popular because I didn't do everything that everybody wanted me to do. You know, you got to have it within yourself to say, I don't want to be what everybody else is being and doing. I got to be me at the end of the day. I don't want to jump in and out of bedrooms and want to just have one night stands everywhere and just do dumb shit. I want to be whole. So if you are following Blue Ivy, have that greatest love within you to say, you know what? I want to be whole. I want to be successful without having to spread my legs. If I want to twerk, I can twerk. But there comes a boundary. You better get your boxing gloves. And if you don't have your boxing gloves, do what Erykah Badu said. Ooh, I shouldn't say that, shouldn't I? I'm going to keep that one to myself. You figure it out. You go do your research of what she said at the Women's Grammy Awards ceremony. What did she say? And I ain't going to say it. You go look it up. You got a phone. Go look it up. And she said on the red carpet, what she said? She said, blank hard. Blank hard, baby. You got to have it. You got to have it. Donna Ross, and you want to talk about Blue Ivy, Donna Ross, in her 13, 14 years, she was banging Berry Gordy.
Yep.
I'm just saying, you got to have it within yourself to say, I'm going to be a different situation. You got to have it. You got to have that strength. You got to. I wish Whitney would have had that strength. She would have been alive today. I wish. But you know what? Blue Ivy is not the issue. The issue is not having a solid foundation that says I am who I am and I'm going to stand in my shits. Yeah. You don't stand, you fall for everything. Hey, shoot behind
the truth. I get you. But like I said, I think we have to be responsible for our own, and everybody's going to be responsible for theirs. We all have opinions. We all have our viewpoints and perspectives. But in the long run, only ones you can contain, and we can't even, hell, I can't contain my own children. I'm trying to keep them out of certain things, but they do. I can only do what I can do.
That's right.
And Beyonce's going to do what she do with Blue Ivy because that's her child and how she feels about her. That's where they draw their line. But as far as my kids, if I don't want them to do it, I'm going to be in there trying to make them not do it. Right. But like I said, they're going to do what they want eventually.
They got to find strength within themselves.
Yep.
Got to. Because we all have to walk this journey by ourselves. Nobody is not going to tell us where to go and where to go, right? Even if they do, you're going to still make that choice on your own. You know how many sheltered women and men have went off and made bad, irresponsible decisions, making children because, well, mama told me and she sheltered me for too long, daddy sheltered. No, you made that choice on your own. And that's what we were just talking about. I think I would say the resentment I had is that I didn't have a male figure to show me the way as a male person in this world. But I cannot always blame that male figure. I still have to make choices on my own and keep it pushing. That's what keeps me going. Is the reality is I cannot always place blame on my dad. I can't do it all the time. And we have talked about this too. We have to make decisions for ourselves and keep it moving. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Hey, well, at the end of the night, I think we can do a better job, but it's still all up to us.
It's all up to us.
Well, we all have to do some sort of I think precautionary actions, because if we never draw a pause to the wind, we'll be open for anything at any time hit us, And
this is America. We always are.
Well, but that doesn't have anything to do with it.
That's why we got Trump in the White House.
That doesn't have anything to do with it.
That's why we got Trump in the White House. That is a representation of why, as Americans, you can't tell us what to do. We allow it to happen because of bad decisions and not doing our own freaking research.
Rebellion.
We have a fool right now who don't really give a damn where he's going to take this country because he feels like he is the prime leader. And who gave him that leadership? We as Americans. We as a culture who believes that people with money and status and power have every right to say.
Honestly, it was his parents that told him that.
Well, his parents say that, but the public said that. Anybody with power, status, and money and wealth has every right to tell us average people what to do. And now we have one in the White House. We have ones who build Teslas. We have one who own Bad Boy. We have one who own Motown. People telling us. Even Oprah telling us freely and willingly, go buy this book. Go buy it. I love it. Go buy the book.
You have a choice.
You have a choice.
You do. You sure do.
You have a choice.
Truth behind the truth.
And that choice should not be one. I think that
happy birthday.
Accountable.
Well, that's right. Happy birthday, Jay.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Yeah, and it's coming in there. Before we get off the show, we want to wish you a very happy, turn around the earth. Another
around the earth.
365 degrees turns. You have just made it through another one. I wish you many, many more. And I love you, my brother, and I hope that you enjoyed your birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I love you too, sir. Mm-hmm. But just like I said, to bring this into this should have been off a few minutes ago. I think at the end of the day, try to fuel yourself with the information that's going to best benefit your life. Whether you get it on a Sunday morning, God knows that whatever you're getting on Sunday morning, you need to be getting before you got there.
True.
True.
Okay. I mean, because if anything that's in scripture, life is already teaching you that every day you get up. The examples that you get there are no more than the examples you live. Mm-hmm. Those people are just the ones that made the choice to overcome the situations that they were dealing with. Whereas maybe you haven't made that choice yet. That's why you kind of keep dealing with the things that you deal. Like Charles said, like Donna said tonight, is that there's only one Savior, but you are that Savior. Mm-hmm. Okay, you make your choice to be that Savior. You become your Savior over any situation that befalls you. If you're looking at it from a salvation standpoint of view, Savior means salvation. Okay, being saved from. Okay, and you are saving yourself from, so you are your Savior. You made the decision not to go into that drug house. You were your Savior at the time. Okay, whatever it is, at the end of the day. Now, I know some of y'all gonna get pushed back. Well, you talking about you taking credit from Jesus. I ain't saying nothing about taking nothing from Jesus. Okay, nothing at all. Matter of fact, actually, what I just said, I illuminated Jesus a lot more. Okay, because at the end of the day, it's through the salvation of Him that you have the power and the mindset, okay, to move into a different place. All right, but that's a whole nother teaching conversation there. At the end of the day, because some of y'all think, I done lost my mind and I don't love God. They done told me really the shot. I don't believe in God no more.
Yeah.
Wow. Because I don't go up and sit I don't go up and sit in somebody's church. I ain't looking at Jehovah and Muslim, Muhammad and Buddha and everybody else is in my opinion all inclusive because it all represents one God. Okay.
Let me show you something. I know, but you know what? This is worth watching, y'all. Listen to this. This is Denzel Washington.
Hey, you're the one who grabbed me, right? Let me tell you something.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
You ever put your hands on me again, and that'll be. I'm warning you. You heard me, right? Okay. Stop. got me? Stop.
This is the life that we're gonna have to walk, regardless if we're Blue Ivy or not. Now, that was Denzel Washington. Truth behind the truth. Let's leave that one alone. That's the journey that we have to deal with.
Oh yeah,
People who don't give a damn who you are and where you are, they still would do whatever they want to do. It's up to you to make that type of change and that type of boundary. You have to set some boundaries. And
be the change you want to see.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So
there you go.
You know, as I said, earlier. So make your own decisions.
Make your own decisions.
Make your own decisions, people. You know, be your own savior, because
That's
you
right.
are your own savior because of your choices. You know, and just put a little scripture on top of it. Paul clearly says that you're only separated from God in your mind. That says a heck of a lot right there. You're only separated from your own destiny in your mind. You know, you're only separated from your movement forward is in your own mind. So if he says that you're only separated from God in your own mind, man, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. You think about that. That's very, 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 very powerful to think that the only time that I experience separation from God is because I don't know that I'm already connected to him. And the only other time that I feel separation from my own self is because I think that I'm separated from my own self. You know? So let's not be separated from our own selves and our own mind. Let our minds create a greater destiny for our lives each and every day that I put our feet and our eyes open, our feet hit the floor and our eyes open. Okay? All right. Great show tonight, guys. Hey, we'll be right back here again next week. Please like and share this show. This was a very good one, very informative, and it touched on things that I think that are very current, about your life. And yes, we are in the place of, we will do a little bit more next week on mental wellness before the month ends. But in this, you found so many different layers as to why mental wellness is important. But at the end of the day, how you see yourself in your own mind is how you see yourself in reality. All right. Love you guys. Have a great night. Thank you for tuning into what? The Truth Behind the Truth. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, you caught me off guard.
That's all right. And birthday.
All right, buddy. Here we go.
You can